teacher baked a pie in front of her class of young kids, then kept it for herself. No problem, you won't be eating it either. Growing up, we often used to pick blackberries around a popular, public, park quarry. One weekend when we were very young, we were interrupted by our teacher, Mrs. W. "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take those," she said. "My friend lives in that cottage at the edge of the quarry and the residents have priority." Now, we had full bags, lots of scratches, and we weren't inclined to let them go without a fight, but to our surprise, my mother smiled meekly and said, "I'm sorry, here you are." After the teacher left, she told us why. Malicious grin. Now, if you thought that the teacher was just AB, it gets worse. Our school had a stove in the classroom, long story, and the teacher decided to cook the same blackberries into a pie in front of around 30 kids under the age of 8. She styled it into a cookery lesson and we were very excited. All of us had eaten blackberries before, but pie isn't a big thing here and that was new. So, we watched her make it, primp it, pop it in the oven. And then she sent us on break. And when we came back, it was gone and we went back to normal lessons. Being the innocent soul that I am, I was the one to ask, "What are you going to do with the pie?" Eliciting choruses of, "Can we eat the pie now?" "That pie was not for you," she snapped at the class, then, to me, in a very supercilious tone, "I'm sorry that I had to ask your mother to give us the blackberries, but my friend had been waiting for a long time for them to get ripe, so she deserved them." "That's not why she gave them to you," I said. I was an honest soul. "They had maggots." "Don't be silly," she snapped and sent me to sit in a corner for 15 minutes for lying. I still associate corners with teacher-free relaxation. The next day, she came in looking very sick and had a long conversation with my mother, who couldn't keep a secret to save her life and so told us later. During dessert with her friend, my teacher told the funny maggot story, whereupon all conversation ended and she learned firsthand that maggots breed in blackberries after rain. Of course I told everyone in the class. She left a year later. Edit for the skeptical. This was a long time ago and I was in senior infants, around 6 to 7, so yes, the details are a little fuzzy and the perspective of a 6 to 7-year-old. It was a small school in a church hall, hence the stove cooker. The quarry in question was as in Dalkey, adjacent to Killiney Hill Park and the homes of many rich folks. It is still rattled with blackberries, which, in the damp Irish climate, do tend to develop ninja maggots. Pretending to not speak English after we ask you to move your car off our property? Fine, we'll do it ourselves. On mobile. Dad just told me this story tonight. Before my parents divorced, we lived in a 3-house neighborhood. Our neighbors to the left of us were friendly and we got along with them well. Our neighbors on the right, however, were different. It was rented out to multiple families, one of them being an Asian family with 7 cars. This is relevant. Always conflict with them, from 24/7 house parties to trying to break into our cars. The family always caused trouble for whatever reason. Dysfunctional, and probably in debt with how many cars they had between 4 people. There was a particular tree on our property that my dad always parked his car under. It was obvious and known that was my dad's spot. One evening, my dad comes home to find the Asian neighbors had parked their car in his spot. A dead car that they didn't use anymore because they probably couldn't afford to fix it, so they decided our property was the best place to leave it to rot. My dad knocked on their door and asked them to move it so he could park, but the gentleman at the door said in a thick accent, "Sorry, no speak English, no speak English." Which was obvious BS. My dad was not amused. He told them, "All right. Just move your car or I'll call someone to get it towed." 2 weeks go by and the car is still there. 3 weeks, they still haven't moved the car. My dad gets fed up. They may have 7 cars, but that didn't mean they could park on our property. My dad decided to take matters into his own hands. He rented a tow truck and waited for the family to be out of the house. Hooked up the car and drove it out to a random parking lot in the shopping center nearby and left it there. Next day, the neighbor came by. "Hey man, do you know what happened to my car?" Perfectly English, not a trace of an accent all of a sudden. Surprise, surprise. My dad played dumb about it. "I thought you couldn't speak English?" "Sorry, man, I don't know what happened to your car. If you moved it though, thank you, man. I appreciate it." Our neighbor couldn't do much because he didn't have any proof my dad did it. Didn't talk to us or park in our spot ever again. Thanks for watching and don't forget to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Have a good one.